Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So today we are back with Dr. Carty, who will be speaking live today with Eat to Beat Cancer. So our eating habits can help us to defeat cancer. So that's what the program is about today. And Dr. Carty has done so many other programs with us about diabetes and also other shows that we have talked about heart disease and how it affects our community. And so this is like his fourth episode, and we're so grateful to have him here. And Dr. Cardi is a well known doctor, and I'll give him time to introduce himself again. And if this is the first time you're seeing him, and at the end of the show, he will give you his contact. His contact will be on the screen. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. Cardi in just a while he's set up. So thank you for being here, Dr. Cardi. And today we are excited about talking about cancer. Not fully excited because this is something that affects our people, but it's going to help a
Yep.
lot of people because we have known people who have fought cancer and so cancer survivors, and unfortunately, those who did not survive. So this is where I'm going to stop talking and let you do the talking. Thank you for being here.
Good night, everybody. My name is Lincoln CARTY. Just want to share my screen with you now. I'm so very thankful to be here, and I trust that everybody will benefit from our presentation tonight. I just want to let you know that here in St. Kitts, I'm an education, health, and wellness consultant, executive director of Lummery Natural Health Consulting, and we encourage individuals to empower your mind, to enhance your body, and to embrace your life, because that is your life and you need to take very good care of it. As Sister Denise says, we are speaking tonight on Eat to Beat Cancer. And I want to introduce you to what I refer to as the cancer busting regimen. The cancer busting regimen. But just to remind you that the information I'm sharing in this presentation tonight is provided for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. In fact, it should not be used to diagnose or treat any illness, metabolic disorder, or disease or health condition. And what I would advise you to do is to always ensure that you contact your primary healthcare physician if you're experiencing a health issue. And so to put our presentation in context, I just want to share with you a text from Matthew chapter 16, verses 24 to 26. Yahshua said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his stake and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, and whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? We are so important to our Creator. And what is concerning is that we do so many things to our bodies, we ill treat them, and one of the worst things that could happen to an individual is cancer. But it is so easy to beat. It's so easy to beat. And so we want tonight to discuss a few things with you as relates to cancer. So we are going to compare alternative versus conventional cancer treatments, because there is a difference between the two. And then we are going to look at the impact of the environment and your lifestyle on cancer. And then we are going to also focus on some foods. Yes, I said it right, foods that might cause cancer. And finally, I'm going to share with you what I call the cancer busting regimen. That is 8 superfood groups that will help to ward off this dreaded disease. So those are the main things we are going to be discussing tonight. So sit back, relax, fasten your seatbelts, and let us take a very interesting and informative flight. So let's look first at alternative versus conventional cancer treatments. I remember when I started studying naturopathic medicine, one of the very first books I had to read for my cancer course was this book that you're seeing on the screen, When Healing Becomes a Crime. It is the amazing story of the Harry Hoxsey clinics and the return of alternative therapies. And you know, this journalist, Kenny Ossibel, he did an excellent job writing that book. But just to let you know that the Harry Hoxsey story tells of the rise and fall and the rebirth of the Hoxsey Cancer Clinic. In fact, that clinic was actually chased out of the US because traditional medicine wanted to just control. And he has now, that clinic was set up in New Mexico, Tijuana, New Mexico. I have sent one patient so far to that clinic, and there's another one I'm getting ready to recommend to go there. Very, very successful. Um, what I was going to say? Treatments, sorry, like 80 to 85%, sometimes up to 90% success rates they have. And that clinic was opened all the way back in 1924. As I said, it was banished from the US in 1960, but it still continues. Even though the founder, Harry Hoxsey, has passed, his nurse has taken over and she is continuing that clinic. And here is Dr. Harry Hoxsey. In fact, his arch enemy were the American Medical Journal, the American Medical Association, sorry, and its journal, which was referred to as the Journal of the American Medical Association. And what was their bone of contention? Their bone of contention were the Harry Hoxsey remedies. He had what was referred to as an external paste that he would put on the skin, and he also had an internal herbal tonic that was given to patients. And up to today, they still use those two treatments very successfully. Now, between the 1920s and the 1960s, just to give you a historical background, two wars were being fought on cancer. The medical establishment was fighting and losing its celebrated war on cancer. And why was it losing those wars? Because its weapons were surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation. And believe it or not, they do not cure cancer, yet they cause so much. In fact, more often than not, after chemotherapy treatments, the cancer returns. Sometimes even surgery does not remove all of the cancer cells, especially if it has metastasized. So Harry Hoxsey, on the other hand, was fighting and winning the war on cancer using, as I said earlier, his external paste and his internal tonic as alternative treatments. Remember I said he was fighting and winning the war while the medical establishment were losing that war. But then there was another war. The American Medical Association, the Food and Drug Administration, the National Cancer Institute, the American Cancer Society, all of them condemned alternative treatments without any investigation. So people like me would not survive in that environment because my focus is naturopathic, or what is referred to locally as alternative medicine. Now, why was this? That's the big question. Why? Why? As you can see in the heading, the dollar connection. Everything has to do with that greenback. And so organized medicine, including medical politicians, yes, there are medical politicians, business interests, and large corporations were all profiting from the cancer industry. You see, alternative treatments do not cost much. And so there is no urgency to promote them. But chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, oh, they cost a lot. And so big bucks are made using those. Hence the tragedy behind the story. We are told that cancer is one of the leading causes of morbidity and mortality worldwide, with approximately 14 million new cases just 8 years ago in 2012. An estimated 169.3 million years of healthy life were lost globally because of cancer back in 2008. Yes, I'm going back to let us know what has happened. Cancer was said to be the second leading cause of death globally and was responsible for 8.8 million deaths in 2015. Story does not end there. It is estimated that in the US alone, this year in 2020, there will be 1,806,590 new cancer cases and 606,520 deaths from cancer just this year alone in the United States. Now, I want you to extrapolate that to the global context. Imagine the number of people who would have died, because we are almost at the end of 2020. Imagine the number of individuals who would have died in 2020 alone from cancer. In fact, we are told that by the year 2030, between 10 and 11 million cancers will be diagnosed each year in low and middle income countries. That's a lot of diagnoses. And worldwide, there will be 23.6 million new cases of cancer each year by 2030. So what does that tell us? That the war on cancer is not being won, not by mainstream medicine, but the majority of individuals access those forms of medicine, therapy, surgery. And that's because alternative or naturopathic medicine is being given such a bad name, when in truth and in fact, it is the most successful approach. Lung cancer, breast, colorectal, stomach, and prostate cancers, those have been among the most commonly diagnosed cancers worldwide since as far back as 1975, and that has not changed. Those are still basically the more diagnosed forms of cancer even today. And so the economic impact of cancer is significant. And as I said, it is increasing. In fact, the total annual economic cost of cancer in 2010 was estimated at approximately US $1.16 trillion. And that came from the World Health Organization cancer fact sheet for February 2017. So those are just some statistical information to put it in context, to give you an idea that we cannot look at cancer just glibly. We cannot dilly-dally with it. It's a serious issue. But let us observe something. Cancer has to do mainly with what is happening in our environment and also what our lifestyles look like. So we are going to look a little bit briefly at the impact of the environment and our lifestyle on cancer. They tell me a picture words, so I'm sure you have taken a look at those pictures there, and you will see examples of negative impacts based on the environment on our lifestyles. You see this: smoking, drinking, using stimulants. You see what he's carrying on his bicycle? I think they used to call it the hog. I don't know what they call it today. You see the fiery stuff this child is eating? Because this has to be a young person here. Okay, so those are just some examples. But let's define cancer and then we'll go back and look at the impact of the environment. What is cancer? We are told that it is a weakening of the immune system causing the mutation of cells. And these cells, they colonize, they destroy, and they displace healthy tissues, and they eventually lead to death. So if you look at this little picture here, this, for example, is an example of a cancer cell, while this one down here is an example of a good cell. But you see how many more cancer cells are around here? And so this is what happens. They mutate, they colonize, and they actually destroy the healthy tissues, thus leading to death. So let us look at a quick comparison between normal cells and cancer cells. So here is a cancer cell. It has an irregular shape, whereas the normal cell has a regular shape. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'm going to point out some main differences. The growth of the cancer cell is out of control. They just grow exponentially, while growth in the normal cell is controlled, it is systematic. The cancer cell doesn't mature. It simply keeps growing and growing and growing. So it's almost as if it doesn't die. Whereas the normal cell actually comes to a point when it dies. That's what we refer to as apoptosis. Another thing is, down here you'll see oxygen. Cancer cells do not like oxygen. In fact, they do not require oxygen. Whereas normal cells require much oxygen if they are going to survive. So the cancer cell can survive in a non-oxygen environment. In fact, the presence of oxygen will destroy cancer cells. Oh, they love glucose, that is sugar. They crave glucose. Yes, the normal cell requires some glucose as well, but the cancer cell feeds on sugars. And so one of the things you would want to do is to get that sugar out of the system. And then we go down here to the environment. Notice that the cancer cell loves an acidic environment, while the normal cell prefers an alkaline environment. And I'm sure you remember we spoke about that already, where we said a healthy person has an alkaline environment, whereas a sick person has an acid environment. So that is what you want. You want an alkaline environment as against an acid environment. Okay, remember I said the nutrient that they prefer, the cancer cells, is glucose, while the nutrients that the normal cell prefers would be some fat, some protein, the ketones, and some glucose. So it's a balance. Okay, so those are just some brief um, differences between the cancer cell and the normal cell. Now let's take a look at our chemical environment, because remember I said the two main impacts on us are the environment and our lifestyle. So we look at the environment first, our chemical environment. The Industrial Revolution, which happened many years ago, ushered in a massive dependence on artificial chemicals, and these are now heavily relied on. Almost every area of our lives utilize some form of artificial chemicals. Synthetic products are found in pesticides, fertilizers, pigments, plastics, solvents, and synthetic fiber products. Even the clothes you wear have synthetic products in them. And so each year, more than 1,000 new and exotic chemicals are added to the more than 84,000 now being marketed. And this information came from the EPA way back in 2014. So you could imagine what it is like today. In fact, it is now possible to detect over 600 different chemicals in our bodies that were not present in human beings before the early 1900s. That's some food for thought. Where did they come from? How did they get into our bodies? Guess what? We put them there. We put them there. In February of this year, the Environmental Protection Agency, that's the EPA I just referenced, they announced that it will, sorry, the agency announced that it will regulate two toxic chemicals found where? In drinking water. Two toxic chemicals in drinking water. These compounds, referred to as PFAs and PFOs, they were phased out in the US, but they are still showing up in drinking water. So even though the EPA attempted to phase them out of circulation, for some reason, they still find themselves in drinking water. In fact, you used to find them a lot in plastics, especially those plastic bottles that water is stored in, that some juices are stored in. But now they are making plastic bottles that are PFA and PFO free. So, what's the bad news as it relates to our chemical environment? The bad news is that cancer, stroke, and birth defects are increasing. The bad news is that the immune system and reproductive disorders are escalating. Yes, the bad news is that nervous system disorders are flourishing. The bad news is that learning disorders are skyrocketing and infectious diseases are on the rise. All of this is as a result of chemicals in our environment that should not have been there in the first place. As a result of those chemicals, we have what is referred to as body pollution or pollution of our bodies. In fact, PCBs, these are polychlorinated biphenyls. They are linked to a 50% reduction in sperm count in the last 50 years in men from industrialized countries. The Caribbean is not too far from being industrialized because we do have some industries. We have industrial parks all across the Caribbean right now. So therefore, what is happening to those men in industrialized countries are probably happening to men today. And this is one of the reasons why I try to promote nitric oxide therapy to help our men to help themselves. Now, as late as 2016, a group of 7 researchers from the University of Alicante in Spain found that adult men with increased PCB concentrations had abnormal sperm, decreased motility, that is, the sperm were not moving as, as rapidly, as fast as they should to get to where they needed to go. And then there was also sperm membrane damage. So all of that would then impact the fertility of these men. 2 years ago, in 2018, it was found that bisphenol A, that is BPA, used in the manufacture of household plastics can be harmful to sperm production and to the DNA in the sperm, which can be inherited. So recognize men who work in these industries, not only are they at risk, but even their unborn children could be at risk because of the impact of these chemicals on the DNA. Women exposed to PCBs or DDT show increased breast cancer rates. In fact, the average woman puts about 515 synthetic chemicals on her body every day without knowing. And guess what? It does not all wash off. About 60% is absorbed into the body. I hope those women who are online right now can see this picture which I'm showing up. Because that picture, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And there are many women who want to look beautiful, and so they resort to chemicals. But hear me, let's start at the top. We are going to go from head down. Women use shampoo in their hair. The shampoo has 15 different chemicals in it that are most worrying. Just to name a few: sodium lauryl sulfate, tetrasodium, propylene glycol, and the possible side effects of these are irritation and possible eye damage. Then you go to the hairspray. It has 11 different chemicals in it. They are referred to as isophthalates, and the possible side effects are many: allergies, irritation to the eyes, nose, and throat, hormone disruption, ladies. And these are linked to changes in your cell structure. And if they are impacting your cell structure, it means they are impacting the ova, the eggs that will make your babies as well. So you're not only impacting yourself, but you're impacting your unborn child. And then the eyeshadow. The eyeshadow has 26 different chemicals in it that cause problems. And these possible side effects are linked to cancer, infertility, hormonal disruptions, and damage to the body's organs. Yes, that harmless eyeshadow that you put on your eyelids, ladies, has a detrimental effect on your body. Then we come across to the what we call the blush. That is what you put on the cheeks. It has 16 different chemicals. We're not going to name all the chemicals right now. We're just going to look at the possible side effects: rashes, irritation, hormonal disruption. You see how many of these chemicals impact your hormones, ladies? You have to be so careful. Lipstick has 33 different chemicals in it which cause problems, allergies, and they are also linked to certain types of cancer. That lipstick that you use, ladies. Then the foundation, which you add to the blush for the face. You see, we are still up at the head. And all of these, notice if you add all of those different chemicals together, we are looking at about 100 different chemicals, and we are only speaking about the head. So that foundation that you put on your face has 24 different chemicals, and they cause allergies. They disrupt your immune system, so they make your immune system weak, so you tend to get sick very easily, and they are linked to various forms of cancer. Now we come down to the deodorant that is placed under the arm. Deodorants have 15 different chemicals that cause problems: irritation of the skin, your eyes and lungs, headaches, dizziness, and respiratory problems caused by the deodorant that you wear. Ask me, do you wear deodorant? I do not wear any deodorant at all. And you don't have to worry about my odor. It's just perfect. Maybe one of these days I'll tell you what I do. And then we come down to the nail varnish. That nail varnish that makes your nails look so pretty, it has 31 different chemicals in it. They are linked to fertility issues and also to problems in developing babies. Pretty nails, harmful to your babies. Perfume has 250 different chemicals that cause irritation to the mouth, throat, and eyes, causes nausea, and also linked to kidney damage. Yes, you're smelling fine, but you're destroying the body. Not good at all. Body lotion has 32 different chemicals which cause rashes, irritation, and hormonal disruption. Some of you might be saying, well, I don't really experience those. Okay, you may not be experiencing them today. In fact, some people are more sensitive than others. So while you may not be experiencing it today, in the long run, it could be affecting you. So you may not realize it today, but later down the road, you will see the effects. And then some individuals put on a fake tan. The fake tan has like 22 different chemicals in it, which cause rashes, irritation, and hormonal disruption. So you see how many of these things impact your hormones, how many of them are linked to cancer, and all in the interest of what? Looking beautiful. But remember, ladies, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Say no more. A word to the wise is enough. So we come back to look at pollution of the body. Research is finding that reproductive disorders are increasing as a result of these chemicals that are being used in the environment. In fact, ectopic pregnancies, that is, pregnancies outside of the uterus, have quadrupled in the last 20 years. And that is a very painful experience for anyone who would have experienced it before. You would know. The prevalence of endometriosis, a painful disease involving the lining of the uterus, is also increasing steadily. And again, because of those chemicals that individuals are using. And now, when it comes to body pollution, you have to understand that many areas of the body are impacted by pollution. In fact, we are told that pesticides and other chemical residues remain in the body for unknown periods. In fact, these are some of the main parts of the body where toxic chemicals are stored. So that you find toxins in the brain, you find lots of toxins in the fatty tissue. So individuals who are obese or overweight, you know there is a lot of toxin in there. Then toxins are found here in this area, which is called the spleen. They are found in the liver and they are found in the lymphatic system. And notice the lymphatic system is all over the body. And so chemicals, environmental pollution then impacts almost the entire human body. And some of these chemicals, such as organotin and chlorine-based products, are potent immune poisons. In fact, I may have mentioned organotin in one of my previous presentations linked to using foods out of cans, because that is, it is a chemical that is leached out of the can into the foods. It's a carcinogen. It's a cancer causing compound. And so that's one of the reasons I discourage people from using canned products. Here are some of the hazardous and toxic chemicals which could end up in our bodies. For example, there is a group referred to as allergens. The allergens activate immune systems, and some of the main ones are formaldehyde, and what is called the sick building syndrome. There are chemicals found in the walls. For example, drywall has a chemical which exudes out of it and causes individuals to feel sick. And so you have what is called the sick building syndrome. And then there are immune system depressants, such as pollutants, which depress the immune system, and these are linked to pesticides, and they're also linked to seals and dolphins in the water. Then there are neurotoxins. These are metabolic poisons which attack the nerve cells, and some of these are chloroform, ether, lead, and DDT. I think the EPA has really tried hard to get DDT out of stuff that we use, but it still shows up in some places. And then there are what are called mutagens. These are chemicals or radiation damage. They alter the DNA. So they actually cause birth defects and tumors when the DNA is impacted. And then there are teratogens. These are chemicals that cause abnormalities during embryonic growth. And two examples are thalidomide and alcohol. In fact, this is one of the reasons why pregnant women are told you cannot use alcohol in your first trimester of pregnancy, because it is going to cause damage to that embryo that is developing inside. And then I mentioned carcinogens a while ago as I spoke about organotin. Now, carcinogens actually cause cancer, which we said a while ago is uncontrolled cell growth. That's what cancer simply is, uncontrolled cell growth, and that is caused by carcinogens. Okay, we take a quick look here. Um, the the writing is a bit small. I wanted to get the whole diagram there, but what I want to show you here is just an example of some of the chemicals which impact our system. We're not going to read all of this information in here, but just to list a few. Selenium. Now, even though selenium is an excellent antioxidant, it is very good in small doses, but in exposure to high concentrations can cause problems like hair loss, brittle nails, neurological abnormalities, and so forth. And then there is beryllium, which causes lung cancer, and chronic beryllium disease. Then we have mercury, chromium. We are going to mention some of them a little bit later. Arsenic, um, trichloroethylene, cadmium. We are going to speak about cadmium and lead a little bit later. Polyvinyl chloride, PVC. Oh yes, we have lots of PVC in our homes. We have PVC pipes bringing water, tap water into our homes, and people drink that water. And we have to understand that PVC, especially when it is burned, when it is heated, combines with water to form hydrochloric acid. And when that is inhaled, it can cause respiratory problems. And then there is barium, brominated flame retardants, and some of those are found to cause growth and sexual, um, the impact, sorry, um, they cause damage to growth and sexual development. They also impact the reproductive system. And then there are PCBs, I mentioned them a while ago, polychlorinated biphenyls and dioxins, furans, all of those cause skin disorders and liver problems. And so all of these chemicals which are found in our environment, which are used for various things in our homes, they actually negatively impact our bodies, and many of them are carcinogens. Okay, so that was looking at chemicals in the environment. Now let's come a little bit closer home and take a look at chemicals in the food. Believe it or not, that chicken that so many people love. Chicken is now what I might call a staple for many homes. We are told that young chickens in the US fed nutrient-rich antibiotic culture waste, causing the chickens to grow substantially faster. Why? Because the faster the chickens grow, the more money the farmers make. It's a multi-million-dollar business, the sale of chicken. But I want you to look at this note here. The FDA, that is the Food and Drug Administration, they admit that chicken meat sold in the US contains arsenic. And arsenic is a cancer-causing toxic chemical that is added to the chicken feed. Notice the present tense. Added. It is added to chicken feed. Arsenic is a poison. It's a toxin. So understand that that chicken is not only sold in the US, but that chicken is sold worldwide. Why? Because lots of imported food comes from the US, including chicken. Over 50% of the antibiotics manufactured in the US today are added directly to the feed of poultry, pigs, beef, and cattle. I want you to understand that. 50%, over 50% of the antibiotics are added to these meats. So whenever you're eating those meats, you're not only eating the arsenic that is added to the chicken, but you are consuming all of those antibiotics that are added to the feed. What is the result? We have what is referred to as antibiotic resistant bacteria. They develop and they spread. It is directly responsible for an increase in human infectious diseases. simply because the bacteria are now resistant to those antibiotics that people consume on a regular basis when they're consuming meats of various kinds. Multiple antibiotic resistant microbes are becoming widely prevalent in the environment, and drug resistant bacteria are turning up where? Even in hospitals. It is for that reason that some individuals go to hospitals for one condition, but a bacteria related condition might impact them in that same hospital, which should be a sterile environment. Plastic wrapped foods lead to increase in consumption of fat, free sugars, and simple carbohydrates. Because it is so easy to go to the supermarket and pick up a plastic, much easier than preparing the food for oneself. But the price is being paid. Increasing overprocessed foods has led to the stripping of essential chemo preventives from the diet. Notice our diet has chemo, that is the right diet, the appropriate diet has chemo preventives, meaning compounds which prevent cancers. But I want you to look at this picture. Cooking up cancer? It wouldn't be crazy to give up grilled, smoked, or fried food. But the note at the bottom of the picture says, one day, this might just be a memory. Why am I sharing this picture with you? People worldwide have gotten into what we call the barbecue craze. Everything is barbecued today. Barbecue is a culprit in various forms of cancer, but especially stomach and colon cancers. Barbecue. So for those of you who love the taste of the barbecue chicken, and the barbecue ribs, and the barbecue whatever it is, understand that there is a very close relationship between the barbecue and the cancer. Why? Because that carbon that comes from the coal and mixes with the fat in the chicken actually creates carcinogens, which when you consume them, they will actually cause cancer. So my advice is zero tolerance for barbecue. Tell the barbecue people, find a different means of preparing your food. Anne Wigmore once said, the food you eat can be either the safest and most powerful form of medicine or the slowest form of poison. Remember, it was the wise man Hippocrates who said, let your food be your medicine and your medicine your food. And he was so correct. But when he uses the term food, he is referring to what our Creator gave us initially as food. The herbs, the grains, the fruits, the nuts, the legumes, the vegetables, you name them. That is what he's referring to as food. Not all of this processed nonsense which people are giving you as a shortcut for food. Because they are laden with toxins that will impact you negatively. So, remember what Anne Wigmore said. Your food can either be your most powerful form of medicine, your slowest form of poison. You choose. In order to help you choose, I want to show you some possible cancer-forming foods. So let's look at this list. Processed white flours. So for those who like white bread, biscuits, Johnny cakes, donuts, etc. Once it is made from white flour, it's a possible cause of cancer, especially colon cancer. Microwave popcorn is carcinogenic. Remember, I'm not saying that popcorn is bad. The problem is microwave popcorn, especially that popcorn that has all of those artificial things in there that pretend to be oil and butter, chemicals in there. You want to make popcorn? Use a nice vegetable oil in your pot and take your time and make your own popcorn. Takes a little bit longer, take some shaking up, yes, but you'll have good popcorn, not microwave. Artificial sweeteners, you name them, sweet and low, equal, and you name them. Every one of those artificial sweeteners are carcinogenic. Alcohol, refined sugars and sodas. All of these are not only acid forming, but they're alcoholic. Smoke, pickled and salted foods. And you see a whole list of them there. You pick any one of them from the list, I'm sure you could tell yourself, oh yes, that's my favorite. Then we have processed meats, like the sausages and the bacons and you name them. And there's more over here. Believe it or not, potato chips are a possible cause of cancer. Not the potato itself, but the potato chips because of the processing and what has been added to the potato chips. Farmed salmon is a problem. Oh yes, salmon is good for you, but it has to be free range salmon. That is salmon that is caught from out in the wild. Fat free foods or low fat foods, they call them diet foods. Don't let them fool you. Those are carcinogenic. GMOs, what we call genetically modified foods. Have you ever seen a purple orange? One day I cut an orange, and when I sliced that orange, inside of it was almost the color of this tomato, red. An orange is not supposed to look like that. This is what the inside of an orange looks like, yellowish. Even though it's called an orange, it is not orange in color. The outside may be orange, but the inside is more yellow than orange. That went in the garbage for me. I was not going to eat that orange, not at all. Hydrogenated oils are carcinogenic. Red meat, canned tomatoes. Why would I want to eat tomatoes out of a can? That's laziness, but that's carcinogenic. So all of those foods you want to try to stay away from. Let's go back over the list again. Processed white flours, microwave popcorn, artificial sweeteners, alcohol, refined sugars and sodas, processed meats, pickled meats, you name them. Potato chips, farmed salmon, GMOs, canned tomatoes, red meat, hydrogenated oils, diet foods, all of those, not good. And then we come to sources of poison in the body. And one of the main ones is lead. Now, lead is found in various places, in paint, paint dust, colored newsprint. Yes, that when you hold that colored newsprint and you're reading your newspaper, the hour that you might spend reading your newspaper, turning leaf, lead is being absorbed into the skin. You find lead in the soil, in canned foods, in food wrappings, in some meat grinders, and also in water, because they're old lead pipes that are still being used in some places. And remember the meat grinders, they don't just grind the meat, but the metal parts that are rubbing together release some of that metal, and there's lead in some of them that ends up in the food. Listen to this very carefully. Rice and vegetables that are cooked in lead contaminated water absorbs about 80% of that lead. And it also lurks in some calcium supplements. So you have to be careful when you're purchasing calcium supplements, that they come from a kosher company, a company that uses all natural means. You do the research on the companies before you buy. And then there's cadmium. Remember I said earlier I'd mention these elements later, so we have now come to them. Cadmium is found in high amounts where in organ meats, especially kidney meat. Yeah, there are lots of folks who like to eat the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the liver, and even the lungs and so on. People like organ meats, but it is in the organ meats that a lot of the cadmium is found. In fact, a German study linked the high intake of meat and organ meat, especially kidney and liver meat, to increase rates of what? Parkinson's disease. That's a fact. We are told that high amounts of cadmium are found in shellfish like snails, oysters, mussels, shrimp, crab, and even some fish as well tend to have high amounts of cadmium. And these fish, in most cases, are what we call pot fish. That is, fish that are carnivorous, fish that would eat meat. Okay, they eat other fish. Okay, you don't find that so much in what I refer to as the silver fish. You see, like the sprat and the balloon and the gar and so on. Those go for plant material. Okay, but imagine cadmium is also found in some cereal grains, some root crops because it is in the soil as well, and it is also found in some leafy vegetables. And that's why it is so important to know where our food is grown, where it is produced. And then we come to another poison, mercury. That is commonly found in fish and seafood. Reason being, a lot of mercury ends up in our waterways and it goes via the rivers and streams and so on straight into the sea, and it enters the sea and finds itself right in the seafood. And so it is easily absorbed in our bodies through the diet. It is found mainly in predatory fish like shark, swordfish, pike, and barracuda. Now, even though the barracuda is a silverfish, the swordfish, they are silverfish. You remember, I never mentioned those when I was given the list of silverfishes because these are predatory fishes, meaning they are carnivorous. And so they would carry lots of toxins. Freshwater fish also tend to have more mercury than saltwater fish. Okay? So, these three main sources of poisons, how do they impact the body? First one, lead, it actually dulls the IQ. So, it impacts your cognitive levels. Cadmium is famous for causing kidney disorders. And mercury causes toxicity of your nervous system. Unfortunately, the effects of those three toxins are irreversible. So you want as much as possible to keep them out of your diet, keep them out of your environment. You're buying paint, for example, you try to find lead-free paint. Because once you paint those walls, lead would be coming out of that wall into the environment, you'll be inhaling that lead. Okay? Now let's look at some environmental causes of cancer. So we have the environmental diseases over here on the left and the suspected agents over here on your right. Okay? So there are lots of folks who experience asthma, for example. Asthma is actually caused by lung irritants. So anything that would irritate your lungs would actually cause asthma. And then we have what is referred to as multiple chemical sensitivity. And this is caused by solvents and smoke. So that you want to try and stay away from chemical solvents that would irritate and cause sensitivity. You want to stay away from smoke. Then we have Parkinson's disease, which is caused by pollutants and pesticides. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that is caused by herbicides. And then there is what is called aplastic anemia that is caused by benzene. So you recognize, therefore, that these are chemicals that you don't really need to have around you. So you want to try as much as possible to stay away from them. And then we have what is referred to as MCS, or multiple chemical sensitivities. These are just some examples of environmental illnesses, which they start as they are, simple, but can all lead to various forms of cancer. You have chronic fatigue syndrome, and that happens as a result of the depression of your immune system. Remember, we spoke about nervous system disorders, learning disorders, Alzheimer's disease, chemophobia. All of those are environmental illnesses caused by the chemicals in the environment. And then there are a group of compounds referred to as endocrine disruptors. These are like DDT, PCBs, petroleum byproducts. All of them possess what we call estrogen activity, and they actually lead to immune depression. They lead to infertility in males. Okay, we mentioned that a while ago. Now, one of my nutrition professors, Dr. J. Robert Hathaway, he actually wrote the book, Eat to Beat Cancer. It is from that book that I'm going to share with you a little bit later the 8 superfoods. That is what we call the cancer busting regimen. But I want to share with you something that Dr. Hathaway said. He said, increases in global population lead directly to environmental degradation and further contamination of our food supply. He says the only practical way to protect your health currently and in the future is by using the cancer busting regimen, meaning eat to beat cancer. Eat to beat cancer. And then, way back in the 17th century, a physician by the name of Thomas Adams, he said, prevention is so much better than healing because it saves the labor of being sick. I want to say that again. Prevention is so much better than healing because it saves the labor of being sick. You see, being sick not only has a detrimental impact on your body, but it also has a detrimental impact on your purse, and it could have a detrimental impact on your social life because those around you will be impacted by your illness, whichever form it takes. And I usually say to people, if you think eating right is expensive, then try getting sick. A word to the wise is enough. So then let's just leave the bad news and come now to focus on the good things. So we start with chemo prevention. You see, chemopreventive food groups consumed along with anti-cancer vitamins and minerals will provide you with the most cancer-busting potential. In fact, what chemoprevention does is it interrupts the processes of cancer or chronic disease by presenting what are referred to as stumbling blocks. And these stumbling blocks inhibit the growth of the disease. In fact, some of them even reverse the disease processes. And that is why you would want to consume foods that are packed with chemopreventive agents because you want to arrest that those cancer cells early and get rid of them. If they're not there, then you want to prevent them from developing. And you do that by using chemopreventive methods. So what are some of the compounds that reverse cancer or the progress of that disease? Soybeans, for example. Soybeans have cancer busting potential. And then there's vitamin D. In fact, right now, as we are in the um, COVID experience, you're now hearing a lot of talk about the importance of vitamin D3 in helping to boost your immune system, and that is so true. So that vitamin D3 would help to ward off the real serious effects of that COVID-19 virus. And then there is butyric acid. It is formed from the bacteria's action on dietary fiber. And this is what the good bacteria in your intestines, in your colon, are designed for. They will take that fiber and convert some of it into butyric acid, which will help to fight various forms of cancer, especially cancer of the colon. That is why you are encouraged to eat a good fiber-rich diet. Vitamin A is also a cancer-busting vitamin, as well as beta carotene, which is the precursor to vitamin A. Fish oil, and we're not talking about any old fish oil, but when you're purchasing fish oil, you have to look for those with the good levels of EPA and DHA, okay? Eicosapentaenoic acid, that is. So you'll make sure you read your labels and get your omega-3s from your fish oils. Now, what are some of the healthy reasons to eat organic? Because when we talk about chemo prevention, we're actually talking about eating organic, eating foods that are not laden with chemicals, whether they be herbicides or pesticides or other chemicals that might be put in the fertilizers and in the soil and so forth. You want to eat organic. Why? Because organic foods contain fewer herbicide residues, fewer insecticide residues, fewer fungicide residues, fewer toxic metals, and fewer nitrates. Organic foods would not impact you in those ways that these negative compounds will impact you. Other healthy reasons to eat organic, you have many more essential and trace minerals found in organic foods, because organic foods are as close to natural as you can get. And so you have not lost your essential minerals by the process of, well, pun, play on words. I was going to say the process of processing, but let me just say by processing, okay? You would not have lost your minerals by processing. Organic foods have no additional hormones in them. I don't know if I ever told you the story about what happened in Puerto Rico many years ago. There was an area in Puerto Rico where most of the primary school boys, a high percentage of the primary school boys began to act effeminate. I mean, you know, in societies, you might find one or two boys, maybe a few, who behave effeminate. But when you find the majority of boys, say 75% or more of the boys behaving effeminate, you wonder why. And people became concerned. And research was done. And this is what was found. Most of those children had egg to eat in the morning for breakfast, almost on a daily basis. Because in the American society, they tell you you go to school on an egg. And so these kids were eating eggs on a regular basis. And the investigation went to the farms. And what was found was that the farmers fed the chickens extra doses of estrogen, that female hormone, which causes the hens to lay more eggs at a faster rate so that the farmers could make more money because they had more eggs to sell. But as they were selling more eggs, those eggs were packed with estrogen. And as the children ate the eggs packed with estrogen, guess what? Estrogen is a female hormone. And so the boys were getting extra doses of estrogen, causing them to become effeminate. And government had to shut down that operation. Stop giving estrogen to the chickens. Let the chickens lay naturally. Okay? So the organic foods have no hormones, no antibiotics. They have more healthful agents. For example, you want a good antioxidant called resveratrol? You don't have to drink wine, which is packed with alcohol. Just eat the grapes, and you get all the resveratrol that you need from the skin. In fact, organic foods taste much better. And for many of them, you can actually eat the skin. Why? Because there are no toxins like herbicides and fungicides and pesticides, which they spray on the foods. So you can actually eat the skin of your fruits and get not only more fiber, but a lot of nutrients that are actually found in the skin. And nutrients in the skin of foods are actually nutrients that are good for your skin, believe it or not. That's why I use watermelon skin on my skin. Okay, so now we come to the last section of our presentation, what we call the actual cancer busting regimen, or the Super 8 food groups. So here are 8 food groups I'm going to introduce you to. Please take a note, pay careful attention. The first group is referred to as the onion group. And that group contains foods such as onions, garlic, asparagus. And these are rich sources of quercetin. And quercetin is an anti-cancer agent. In fact, all of these foods, they combine to provide you with anti-cancer, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties. Yes, all of those foods. It is for that reason I try to use either onions or garlic on a daily basis. Don't get asparagus so often, but onions and garlic are common, and so I have them in my meals on a daily basis. And these foods, the onion group, also helps to lessen allergies and asthma problems. They could also protect you from heart disease. Okay, so that's group number 1, the onion group. Group number 2, what we refer to as the cruciferous group. The cruciferous groups, these are foods like broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. And you notice I have 2 forms of cabbage there in the picture. The purple one is more preferable. Why? Because it would have more antioxidants in it than the green one. Dark fruits or vegetables tend to have more antioxidant properties than the lighter colored ones. Okay, so what do the cruciferous foods do? They protect your DNA. Remember we said some chemicals actually cause damage to your DNA? The cruciferous foods protect your DNA. They increase detoxification, so they help you to get rid of toxins from the body. And they may actually prevent breast cancer, prostate cancer, cancer of the lung, the throat, the stomach, and the colon. And they block toxicity. In fact, one of the main toxins which they block, very good reason, toxin called aflatoxin. Where does it come from? It comes from mold. How many of you have ever seen mold on your bread? Help us. And you just break off that mold that you see. Or you take a knife and you cut off that outer portion of mold that is on the skin, what we call the skin of the bread, or the outer portion of the bread. And so you figure, okay, I've gotten rid of that mold. I cut my bread in 2, I put whatever I want to put in it, and I enjoy my bread. But let me tell you something. What you see on the outside is only the tip of the iceberg. Because for those of you who would have studied molds and fungus and so on in biology, you would have learned that the bulk of the tissue is inside of that food. An expansive root system is inside of the food. So when you cut off the outer portion, you're only cutting off the tip of the iceberg. The same thing applies to fruits. Some fruits begin to develop those black spots. You see it is a mold. You cut that off, you eat the rest of the fruit. But most of the mold is on the inside. And it is those molds that you find on bread and on fruits. Those molds actually release that chemical called aflatoxin, and it's a very dangerous chemical. So if you see mold on your food, get rid of all of it. It doesn't cost too much to throw away a loaf of bread, right? Better to eat a fresh loaf than to suffer the impacts of aflatoxin. We come to group number 3, which is referred to as the nuts and seeds group. Very simple name, easy to remember, nuts and seeds. Examples, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, walnuts, and there are lots of other seeds we could add to that, like grape seeds and so on. Now, these seeds are very strong antioxidants. They're also protease inhibitors. So they prevent those proteins which help to form the cancer cells that are so destructive. They're useful in the treatment of AIDS, believe it or not. Nuts and seeds, very useful in the treatment of AIDS. Okay? So that's group number 3, the nuts and seeds group. And then you have group number 4. In fact, before I move on, let me add, especially for the men who might be listening, that pumpkin seeds, watermelon seeds, grape seeds, these are all very good as preventives for prostate cancer. So you want to consume your protein. I know there are lots of folks who they eat the watermelon and just spit out the seeds. But every part of the watermelon is good for food. From the skin go right down to the seeds. You can actually juice the watermelon skin. Okay? So let's move on now to group number 4, which we refer to as the grass group. The grass group, like corn, and oats, and rice, and wheat. And we could go on to add millet and quinoa and sorghum, you name them. Okay, and all of those different types of grains are used to make flour. Okay, so that you don't have to go for that refined white flour. You have stone ground flour that is made by red mills and other companies. Okay, now the grass group, they actually inhibit carcinogens. So they prevent the carcinogens from impacting your system, from causing cancer cells to develop. And these grass foods, they are rich in ligand. Ligand is that fiber that you find mainly in rye and flaxseed, buckwheat, soy, millet, oats, and barley, right? That ligand is extremely important as a chemopreventive substance. And these foods also are known to prevent breast cancer. Okay, so that's why you want to make these a good part of your diet. Now I have just one request here. I wish instead of the yellow corn, I have more of the blue corn, because the blue corn is actually the natural corn. The yellow corn is genetically modified. So I myself don't make it a habit to use much of that yellow corn now. So I do apologize for showing you that yellow corn. I should have actually gotten a picture of the blue corn and showed it to you. In fact, I do eat chips now and then, but I use organic blue corn chips, or I eat organic cassava chips. I don't use potato chips anymore, especially that white potato. I do use um, locally produced sweet potato chips. And this is from a farmer here who does not add those chemicals to them. A very good friend of mine. It has an excellent sweet potato chip. I use those. But if I go to the supermarket, I go to purchase and I want chips, and to use with a little hummus dip, just as a little snack, then it has to be either corn, blue corn chips or cassava chips. Okay? We go to group number 5. Group number 5, what we call the legume group. So seeds and nuts are important, legumes are also important. Soybeans, for example, but mainly the tofu, that is the processed, the fermented form of the soybean. That is much better than the raw form. Then you have green and wax beans and all kinds of peas. Once they are beans or peas, good for you. They are excellent sources of protein, but more important is that they inhibit both breast and colon cancer. They inhibit breast cancer, colon cancer. Soybeans are antiviral, anti-cancer, antifungal, antioxidant protein. They are excellent sources of vitamin C and antioxidant protein.
Okay. I think let me see what's going on. Dr. Kati is frozen. So
If it is caught early, if it is caught early, good food can actually help to get rid of cancer once it is caught early. Or good food will help to prevent it. And that is really my focus, prevention. I usually tell people prevention is not better than cure. Prevention is the cure. Prevention is the cure. So we go to group number 6, which is what we call the fruit group. The fruit group. And by fruits, we refer to citrus fruits and berries of all kinds. Strawberries, cherries, blackberries, raspberries, you name it. Once it is a berry, it is not only an excellent source of vitamin C and flavonoids, but it's also an excellent source of monoterpenes, what we refer to as fruit oils. But more important than that, in the context of what we are studying tonight, those flavonoids found in fruits are actually anti-cancer, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, anti-allergy, anti-tumor, antioxidant, and they prevent tumor cell invasion. Fruits, berries. I love to see that platter of fruits there. I almost could see the rainbow of fruits. And every one of those I love. Especially this one in here called the soursop. I think that looks like a soursop right in there. Oh no, here's the soursop here, right? And then you have the star apples and the watermelon, the bananas, you name it, the avocado. Oh boy, my mouth is beginning to water now. Yeah, and I think I'm going to eat a fruit or two when I'm done here. Oh yes, oh yes. And then we come to group number 7, the solanus group. The solanus group. These are the tomatoes, potatoes, beets. And these help to reduce prostate cancer. So gentlemen, you want to eat your potatoes. You want to eat your beets. And please recognize that the emphasis is on sweet potato rather than white potato because of the problem with white potato and its high glycemic index. Too much glucose going into your system. You want to go for sweet potato, beets, tomatoes. And gentlemen, the best way to use the tomato to protect your prostate is to bake the tomato. So baked tomato is better than raw tomato. Why? Because when you bake it, the heat helps to release more of the lycopene that is in the tomato, and that is what is good to protect your prostate. Okay? I guess cooking it is just as fine, baked or cooked tomato rather than raw. I know most people use the raw tomato in salads, but you'd want to cook it to get more of the lycopene from it. Okay? So these foods, they inhibit carcinogens. So they prevent the carcinogens from causing colonization of cancer cells. So they destroy them early. Okay? Whole tomato is also more effective against cancer formation than vitamin C alone. Okay? So you want to just go for your tomatoes, gentlemen. Well, and ladies, okay? And then we come to the final group, group number 8, the umbelliferous group. Okay, group number 8 is the umbelliferous group. And these, again, very common, you know them: carrots, celery, parsley, dill, anise, cumin. I'm sure you are familiar with all of those. Yes, some people use them, some don't, but I'm sure after tonight, you're going to use as many of those foods from those 8 groups as possible. Now, celery seed oil actually increases the activity of glutathione S transferase, shortened as GST. Now, that is a detoxifying enzyme which is produced in the liver. And so you eat your celery, but you also want to use the celery seed oil. And you take that oil on a regular basis, and it helps your liver to form that enzyme called GST. Because remember, your liver is your main detoxifying organ, and so you want to help it as much as possible. Carrots have anti-carcinogenic properties. So use your carrots. If you can use them raw, most of the time, fine. If you're cooking them, don't overcook them. Because as the more you cook, meaning the more you process, the more you destroy the nutrients. Okay? So the umbelliferous foods, they actually protect against various forms of cancer. Cancer of the mouth, the gastric tract, that's the stomach, the colon, lung cancer, the lining of the uterus, pancreas, prostate, and bladder. That is your gallbladder. What am I saying? Your your bladder, which houses your urine, which stores your urine. Okay, so
Urinary.
the right for the urinary tract. So the cancers of all of those areas are warded off by the umbelliferous food group. So those are the Super 8 food groups, and that brings us to the end of our presentation. And so a picture is worth 1,000 words. Two pictures says that there are different people with various types of questions. And so you are free now to ask your questions, and I will answer as well as I can. So it's now your time for questions or comments or discussion.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Carty. We have a question from Facebook. First, I'll read her comment by Kelly Neal.
Yes.
So when you were talking about the makeup, she was like, I don't wear makeup, laugh out loud. And then she said, if I do it occasionally. So pound team natural. Then she has a question. She said, I have uterine fibroids. Question: will eating plant-based help dissolve or get rid of them?
Depending on the size, you might need to go invasive and do surgery. But if they are just beginning to form, you might want to make some adjustments to your diet. In fact, I indicated to Sister Denny this evening, just before we started, that I might be able to do a presentation with you next week entitled Chocolate versus Caramel. And we're going to speak a little bit more about fibroids at that time. So ensure that you tune in next Sunday night, if it's possible, and bring along some friends with you, because that topic is so important. There are so many people who love chocolate. But just to say that sometimes what you need to deal with fibroids is simply a change of diet, especially removing the stimulants like the sodas, the Coca-Colas, the the cocoa products, the acid forming products,
Wow.
and just have an alkaline environment. Sometimes as a change as simple as that could actually help to get rid of fibroids. Yes. But like I said, if they are grown, to a fairly large extent, then you might need to have them removed surgically. But yes, change your diet still.
Okay. And then there was a question from Brother Bradley that were saying, when you said you use watermelon for your skin, to explain more about that.
Yes. Under the white here, you might be able to see the skin looking a little bit youthful.
Yes, sir.
Maybe I can show you.
Oh, yes. You have the
Right?
glow, a youthful glow.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
In addition to using dermal products on my skin, the only other product I use is watermelon skin. And so when I purchase watermelon, I utilize everything. I eat the pulp and the seeds. And when all of the pulp is gone, I take that white portion inside, crush it up almost like a liquid, and I wait until in the night just before I go to bed. I wash my face with it, my hands, my chest, my neck. I let it dry and I go to sleep. And that feeds my skin while I'm sleeping. Oh, yes, plain and simple. That's all I do. That's all I do. Ladies, your skin will glow. You don't need to put on what you call it, the foundation and the rouge and all of those things. Your skin will have a beautiful glow if you just use watermelon skin. Some people use aloes as well. Now and then, I do a rub with aloes as well. But most of the time, it's watermelon skin or my dermal products.
Okay, that's great. This is great information. And I also have a question. You talk about deodorants that we use.
Yes.
I have heard, sometimes they tell me don't use this deodorant, it causes cancer and all this aluminum in it. So, what advice do you have for us for deodorants? Because I had you, I don't know if I heard you right, but you said something about you don't use deodorant, or do you use deodorant, or is it natural deodorant? Because sometimes growing up, our grandmothers would tell us about lime, but the question is, what do you use, Dr. Carty, so that we can go back to natural ways and natural products? I know charcoal. One of the things that my mom gave to me was charcoal deodorant lately, but I was like, I'll have this fancy one that smells so great, but it's harmful because it tells you will not perspire for 24 hours.
Um, Allow me to just get up
Yeah.
and I'll go and get two products because I need to show you them.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. So while Dr. Carty is going to go get that, please feel free to write on Facebook your questions and I'll read out your questions. And this is where we learn. And this has been very informative, very, very, very informative for us. I'm looking on my phone, I'm getting questions, and it's very informative that we're learning. Okay, Dr. Carty is back. Yes, sir.
Okay. First, you can see this.
Yes, sir. Ovel.
Yeah, emulsifying ointment. Emulsifying ointment. See
Oh,
that?
Dr. Carty, you need to stop showing your screen so that they can see it. Sorry. I was just told that they can see.
Oh,
Yeah, if you point.
oh, wait, 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 wait.
Yes.
Okay.
So even your youthful skin, they didn't see it. So you'll have to do
Okay.
that again. Yes.
So
Go ahead, sir.
how do you, are you showing me? I'm seeing you. You're
Yes.
seeing me?
Yeah, I'm seeing you. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so at least, folks, you can see my skin, right? Look
Right.
past the white here and see the glow.
Yes.
And look at my arms. Okay. I don't want to open my shirt, because the chest isn't all that big. So like Bradley, so I have to leave that. But this is the product I wanted to show you. It's called emulsifying ointment.
Yes. Nice.
That is my soap. That's my soap. I do not use regular soap. And that's my lotion.
Dermol 500.
Dermal lotion. In fact, I use both the dermal lotion and the dermal cream and the dermal hand wash. Remember, I said there are dermal products that I use for my skin
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
because you see, my skin is sensitive to soap. And so a few years ago, my dermatologist told me, you need to stop using soap. And I was so glad I met that young lady. Oh yes, because every now and then I would have these eczema-like stuff, coming up on my hands, and I mean, I can show off my hands now. There was a time when I couldn't do that because you would see all, how eczema tends to bother people, and I
Yes.
couldn't understand what was happening until she said to me, "It's your soap," and
Mm.
she recommended emulsifying ointment, and then I found the dermal products in my search, and so that's what I use. So I wash the skin with that. I use the dermal ointment or the dermal cream, sorry, the dermal lotion or the dermal cream. And this lotion goes all over my body, all over, from face to toe. So I don't need to use um, um, deodorants. Let me tell you something about these products. These products actually have very good antibacterial, antifungal properties. So once you wash with these, and a lot of the soaps that said they're antibacterial, I have proved they're not so antibacterial. It's just marketing promotion, but these for real. So I have proven them over the years I've been using them. Yes, it makes keeping my skin clean a little bit more expensive, but like I said, if you think eating right or looking after your body is expensive, try getting sick. Listen.
And somebody asked, does your soap foams? Like, does it foam?
No, no, it's
No.
it's it's like it's like a grease or a cream,
Mm-hmm.
and so I just rub it all over the skin, leave it there for like a minute or so, and then wash it off.
Okay, Kelly said name on the box. Which box, Kelly? Can you let us know?
The lotion or the
Is it the
one,
lotion or the other?
the,
Oh
this
yeah,
one.
maybe that's yeah, Ovel.
Okay.
Um,
Well, forget about the brand name because there are different brand names. If I can't get the Ovel, I'll get another one. What you want is this name down here, emulsifying ointment. That's the name you want, emulsifying ointment. It doesn't matter the brand. Once it says emulsifying ointment, that is what you want.
okay.
That is
And
better
then
than soap.
my better than soap. Okay, great. So back to the presentation. My mom joined in and she says, "Do you mean sugary drinks by the name Glory about the cancer?"
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you something. Cancer loves sugar. Serious. So, you want to prevent cancer? Get rid of sugar. You will starve the cancer cells if no sugar is present. I'm talking about that extra sugar, the brown sugar, the white sugar that is
Mhm.
so carcinogenic in itself, white sugar, right? And all of those other forms. We get enough sugar from our food, you know. The fruits contain good sugar. You see, and the starches, some of the starches that you use, they contain sugar as well. Okay? So we don't need that excess sugar. It's carcinogenic and it is acidic.
Okay. So that's a very, good answer. You have taught us a lot of things here today, and I was taking notes, and I'm going to go ahead and read up on some of them, and I'm going to change my eating habits. You said something about brown sugar. So brown sugar, normally they tell us brown sugar is good, or you can drink brown sugar.
Okay, let me tell you something about brown sugar.
Yes, sir.
A statement was made. I don't remember who made the statement, but this is what was said. If sugar was discovered today, meaning in our times, the FDA will not approve it.
Wow.
That's how bad it is. If sugar was discovered now, in our times, the FDA would not approve it. And look at some of the crap that they're approving for people to use. That's how bad sugar is.
Yeah,
And guess what? You find it in almost everything that you consume.
sure.
Serious.
And you know, it make me think because when you read the scriptures in the Bible, and some people call it the Bible, I don't see sugar. I hear sweeter than honey, but I don't see sugar in it. So we are the ones manufacturing things to kill ourselves. And this is gonna make me
Yes.
go back and research when we started eating sugar. Because some people will tell you that sugar was not, we had the sugar cane, but we didn't make it into sugar. We make it into
Right.
sugar drink or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Because do you know how much sugar is in a glass of cane juice?
No,
Just a
sir.
small amount, you know. Just a small amount.
Wow.
You see. But
Mhm.
then how much sugar is in a can of soda?
A lot.
8 to 10 teaspoonfuls.
Wow.
One can of soda. 8 to 10 teaspoonfuls of sugar.
That's like drinking our own diabetes.
Oh yes. That's so
Mm.
true. Hmm.
Wow. So I can't wait for next week for the chocolate because I am a chocolate addict
Yes.
recovering because when I don't see it and then it does something to my teeth, so I'm not there. But you know, some people tell you I have a sweet tooth, but
Hmm.
that comes back to the diet. And now we see kids having cancer, but all the things you've shown us over 1,400 about the EPAs, and then you
Yeah.
showed us about over 50% of meat have antibiotics.
Yep.
So the kids are having cancer from food. Is that right?
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
So should we check the baby formulas and see if these things are in it also about um, um, the cancer causing chemicals and the sugar and all of that?
Yes. And do you know?
Yes, sir.
Do you know that these baby formulas are not really absolutely necessary? It's funny. The best baby formula is mother's milk. The
Wow.
best baby formula is mother's milk. And how long does it take to wean a child off mother's milk? Not 6 months, you know. Probably as long as a year or even more. But you see, the commercial world has manufactured these things as a means of making money and they market them to the mothers. And the mothers are okay, I don't need to breastfeed, I could just buy a baby formula. And you'd remember I indicated to you when we were doing which one it was? when we were doing, yes, diabetes just the other day, that cow's milk is actually a factor in type 1 diabetes in children. Remember?
Yes, sir.
So what the children need is not cow's milk, they need their mother's milk. That's how we were designed. You see, you don't need to steal the milk from the cow. That's for the cow's calf. Okay, so ladies, those of you who plan to get babies, plan to breastfeed. Because when you do that, you're not only giving them the nutrients that they need to grow, but you're also giving them the antibodies that they need to fight against diseases, to build the immune system. And a lot of mothers don't realize that. The breast milk actually has those initial antibodies that the children need to build the immune system. Yeah.
Wow. So my
So,
mom said, "Thank you, sir." And she said, "What about honey?"
what about honey? There are mixed messages about honey. In fact, so much so that at one time I consumed a lot of honey. Another time I stopped because I would say, oh, it's bees vomit. But now I use honey again. And in fact, I use honey first thing in the morning only. My sweetener is either agave syrup or maple syrup. Those are the two sweeteners I use. Organic, agave, or maple syrup. But I use honey with vinegar at mornings, mainly to help to develop some alkalinity in the system and to help to destroy any fungus that might find its way into the system. So that's why I use the honey. Because honey is an excellent antibiotic too. Some people, some people, if they get a cut and they don't, the only problem is the sweetness might attract ants, you know. But you can actually put a little bit just over a wound and it helps to provide the antibacterial effect, you see. Yeah, prevent bacteria from developing in the wound and causing infection. So honey is excellent both in and out of the body.
Great. Thank you, sir. Because she was asking, that was her next question. Can you rely on honey? There's so many brands of honey. Which one can you
Yeah.
use?
Well, what you want to do is try and go for honey that is as close to raw as possible. So you want a raw grade A honey. Okay? You don't want one that is too processed. If you can get local honey, that's even better. Because in most cases, the local honey is raw.
Okay,
There's
great.
one gentleman here, I get honey from, not the last set, the set before the last. I actually got the honey in the honeycomb. You know, so man, I was able to just squeeze
Oh,
that
wow.
honey out. And that's the real raw honey. It tastes great. Oh
Makes me
yes.
remember back home. I've had honey from honeycomb too. Yes.
Right.
Unfiltered. Great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. So I we have more questions and might ask you to also share your screen. But if this is your
Right.
first time watching us, you can also go to our YouTube. It will be on YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then the information for Dr. Carty is right on the screen. As you can see, this is his telephone number in St. Kitts and Nevis. Did I say it right, sir? And
Yes, St. Kitts. I'm in St. Kitts. The country is St. Kitts and Nevis, but I'm in St. Kitts.
St. Kitts, yes. And he's a
Okay.
natural holistic doctor, deals with herbs also. And so this is his contact information, Facebook information, email, and website. So if you want to find out more who Dr. Carty is, and there's a YouTube video introduction, I think we shared on the page in Yahweh Kingdom Principle about who you are. And that was nicely done, very professional, about your research and your findings. So you can reach out to Dr. Carty, email him if you have questions, and WhatsApp him. So the mobile number you can add and always WhatsApp him, and he will be able to answer your questions. And also like his Facebook page email, and this is his website if you want to check drcarty.synergyworldwide.com. All right. So I don't think I have very much question. This is very informative. I want us to go back. Let me see. Do anybody have more questions that we miss? Um, oh yes, Kelly asked a question. She said, "My question is, has cancer been around or is it just more prevalent now due to the new age eating?" So she's asking, has it been around or is it prevalent due to the new age eating?
Um, Let me put it this way. Since we came into what we call the industrialized age,
Yes, sir.
where we have started adding all kinds of things to our food, we have the introduction of those diseases. What was happening at the beginning was that those diseases were more prevalent among the affluent individuals because remember at the start of the industrialized age, things were very expensive. So only those who could afford were able to purchase them. But as products became um, more and more available and the prices went down, so they became more accessible to larger portions of the population. And as a result, yes, the cancers will increase, the diabetes will increase, the hypertension will increase. In fact, there was one researcher who said when talking about the Africans, he said that before the turn of the 20th century, you would not have found hypertension, diabetes. In fact, the non communicable diseases were not found in Africa before the turn of the 20th century. But around that time, when the industrialized age began and the Africans took on the lifestyle of the West, the lifestyle of the Americans and the Europeans, that was when those diseases were introduced into Africa. I believe that is enough to answer that question. Because
Yes.
what has happened here in the Caribbean, many people have now taken on the lifestyle of the Americans. In fact, I started doing a seminar on Facebook. Um, it's a nutrition seminar. Would you believe for the life of me, I can't remember the title? Healthy, wealthy, and 10 times wiser. That's the topic. Healthy, wealthy, and 10 times wiser. And I have to admit, oh, so I'm so embarrassed because I did the first 5 parts and I completed it's part 5. I did the first 4 parts. I think I completed part 5 and I'm supposed to post part 5. I have not done that yet. Um, so I'm going to have to try to get that done probably a night during the course of this week. Get that on Facebook. And that would end that series on nutrition. But for those of you who can access my Facebook page, that's Lamarine Natural Health Consulting, you will find those first parts of that seminar. And I speak a lot in one of the sessions about diets around the world. We are introduced individuals to the American diet, the European diet, Mediterranean diet, various types of diet, and introduce them, to the the healthy diet. Okay, the diet that will cause your environment to be more alkaline than acidic. You see, so that is what I try to encourage people to go for. The natural diet which our Creator Yahweh gave to us right from the beginning. Okay, that's what we need. So I have to try and finish that final presentation. for that nutrition seminar. I think people are wondering if I have fallen off the planet because they haven't seen me on my page for a while, and that's bad. Yeah, but that's what happens when you have an eclectic life, and you know there are so many things in the path. But I'm going to slow down one of these days and get to know more things like this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And we're very appreciative of that.
As
Thank you.
I mentioned earlier, right now I'm in the process of developing a new business.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
new in the sense that the business I work at, I'm general manager there at Eastern Benevolent Society. So we are upgrading, rebranding, and renaming it. We are going to um, evolve it into a mutual society. So it's going to be called Lloyd Mutual Friendly Society. So I'm in the process of preparing all the documentation, the marketing material, and all of those things. So, I got a new administrative assistant who is very good. She has a degree in IT. So the website is being built right now. And so we are getting there. So very soon, you know, we'll be able to introduce you all to even that. Yep.
Great. We can't wait for that. And Facebook, you're getting a lot of thanks. My mom Glory said thanks, and Kelly said, "Wow, thanks." And these are three replies.
Beautiful. You're
Thank you, sir.
welcome.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir, from my mom
Yes.
also. And this is great. You said something. I'm gonna ask two or three questions and let you go because I know it's very late in your time home, so you're one
No,
hour
you
ahead.
go right there. That's your question.
Yes, the corn.
Yes.
We've been learning stuff when that the yellow is. You said something
Yes, the yellow corn is actually a hybrid.
hybrid.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's not the original corn.
And that's what we love eating, and it's scattered
Yeah,
around the world, Africa, Caribbean, America. I love
all
corn
over.
all
The
over.
original corn is actually called blue corn. It is not
Wow,
it is not blue in color. It has a kind of purplish color.
that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I saw a
That's it.
purple carrot that I bought one time in Whole Foods.
Mm.
In a Whole Foods, I don't know if it was purple or what, but it was not your regular color. So I brought it. It looks black.
Mm.
That when I was on a vegan diet few months ago, that really worked on me.
Yeah.
It worked on my system. I felt different.
Uh-huh.
And yes, and in my eating and everything, I felt different working on it. And I was like, so it's true about this because I had that the purple is and carrot is the natural one. It's black,
Right, right.
almost black. So the blue corn you're talking is purple in color. Is
Yeah.
the natural. Wow, we
You know,
from
we have a little bit of a problem, eh?
yes, sir.
Remember, we are referred to as minority. We are referred to as black.
Yes, sir.
And people are educated to like white rather than black.
Can you show yourself, sir, so that I can see who is speaking?
Yeah, sorry.
No, 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 no. I want them to see your expression.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I was saying, people are educated to like,
Your mic, a little bit. Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
okay? So people are educated white rather than black. And what has happened is that over time, whatever is dark is transferred to something lighter.
Lighter. Yes, sir.
So
Um,
that
your
instead of
mic, sir.
brown, you're not hearing me?
No, no, no. It's shaking.
Probably, okay, maybe the internet connection going. You're hearing me now?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay. So this is what has happened. If you watch the processing of foods,
Yes, sir.
this is what you will see. Wheat is brown,
Mm-hmm.
but that brown is taken away so you could get white flour.
Hmm.
Rice is brown, so you can still get brown rice, but that brown is taken away to give you white rice. Sugar is brown by nature or red, depending on whether it is beet sugar or cane sugar. But now, sugar is predominantly white. White sugar does not exist in nature. And by the way, white sugar is so toxic because it has bleach in it. It is the bleach that makes white sugar white. Okay? Blue corn is now yellow corn. Yeah. Probably is the internet connection because the mic is right here.
It's talking now, right? Yes.
Yes. So blue corn is now yellow corn.
Hmm.
The dark carrot is now orange carrot. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yes.
So that the dark is being taken out. And when the dark is taken out, guess what? Many of the antioxidants, many of the chemopreventive nutrients are also taken out. And this is what people don't seem to realize. And that is why foods must be consumed in as organic a form as possible. Okay? Because it is the organic that has the chemopreventive nutrients that we need. So people, forget processing. Go for real food.
Yes, sir.
Real food. That's what I eat. Real food. And it shows inside as well as outside.
Okay. And Sister Kelly is saying, true, bleach, so true. This is three comments, and then she said, why have they done this? And also, I might add, the vanilla bean is dark, but I love vanilla. Now
Yeah.
we get white vanilla that is
White vanilla.
harmful.
That is so true.
So, Sister,
Again, but there's still brown vanilla. You can still get the brown vanilla.
oh, really?
Yeah. Uh-huh. You can still get it. In fact, there are some folks who make it here locally. They get the seeds and they just make the vanilla essence straight from it. So we do have the brown vanilla.
Oh, okay. I'll
Yeah.
look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And Sister Kelly said, why have they done this?
The dollar bill.
The dollar bill, Sister Kelly.
The dollar bill. Oh, yes. I mean, it is so interesting. Recognize that the processed food costs more than the natural food.
True.
And they'll tell you pay for the processing. So you pay for the processing and you also pay to get sick. Does not make sense.
No, sir.
In fact, what I usually say to folks during my nutrition seminars is that these people make a killing out of killing people.
Hmm.
Plain and simple. But we have to tell the truth as it is.
Yes, sir. That's true. Telling the truth as it is. And also our farmers. I see what is disheartening to me. I see farmers on Facebook. Most of our farmers um asking for hybrid seed to plant in Africa. Give
Yes.
us as food. That really breaks my
Yes.
heart. I'm like, no, don't do.
Right. That's hurtful.
Yes,
Mhm.
we have the natural stuff, but not
Just
more.
send a note back to them. Tell them go for natural. Tell
Yes,
them the
sir.
hybrid is going to kill them. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna watch my eating habits. Eat less of the processed food. Go
Right.
back to the earth and eat more fruits, like the
Yes.
tomatoes. You talked about the purple cabbage,
Yes.
and other things. And some of these things that you list here, I know somebody that they said should not eat some of these things. They just got it from they're a cancer survivor twice, but they take blood thinner, and they told them you can't have broccoli, you can't have cabbage, you can't have ginger, you can't have this, and all this food you're saying kills cancer.
Yeah. But that's because they have been put on blood thinners, and the blood thinners tend to react with greens. You see?
With
There's
greens.
an
Oh, okay.
adverse reaction, yeah, between blood thinners and greens. That is the problem.
So what would you recommend them to eat? The nuts or and citrus fruits or the beets? Because you gave us 8 groups.
Right. In fact, they could use foods from all of the other 7 groups
Yes,
and
sir.
be comfortable. And the thing about eating greens is that greens can still be eaten, but in small amounts on an irregular basis. So you don't want to take it daily, you see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough that they have to be on these blood thinners, you know. Um, Maybe nitric oxide therapy will help, you see, and increasing the water intake because what they're trying to do is to prevent blood clotting,
Yes, sir.
right? That's what they're trying to do, you see.
Mm-hmm. All
So
right.
get rid of the cholesterol, get rid of the atherosclerosis, that hardening of the arteries that build up in there. Nitric oxide therapy helps to get rid of that, and the blood flows properly. You see, and then there won't be any need for blood thinners. But medical doctors don't operate from that point of view. You see, their
Yes, yes.
focus is take this drug, and then when the side effects
Mhm.
come, take another drug to fix that, and another drug to fix that one. That is the problem. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I have one. So you've helped somebody saying laugh out loud. Me too. Okay, that's Miss Kelly. Kelly, Sister Kelly. She said, I try to leave processed alone.
That
Yes.
would be good for you, my dear.
Mhm. So without much ado, I think we've come to a close. Let me see if there's any more question. If you have any more question before we close, let me know if you can quickly type it. But I have a question. Blue corn. Where can I get this blue corn from?
That's the thing about it. It's not so common.
Yes, sir.
Um, in fact, I have not been able to buy the blue corn itself here in St. Kitts,
Mm-hmm.
but I do get the blue corn flour and the blue corn chips. So I get both the flour and the chips here. Okay. If your supermarket carries the red mill products, then you should see blue corn there. Because as I said, that company, the stone grind their seeds to
Yeah.
make flour. So there's the blue corn flour, there's the rye flour, millet, quinoa, you name it. And the quinoa could also be used to cook like you're cooking rice. So you could cook the seeds just like if you're cooking rice, or you could use the quinoa flour for your baking. Okay.
Yeah.
So so it's just a matter of searching for it. If you can't find it in your supermarkets, then go online. You know, nowadays you could get almost everything online, right? And
Yes, sir.
there are supermarkets online, there are good health food stores online, okay? And you know, the blue corn, it is sturdy enough to travel, okay? Um, if you can get the corn itself, the kernels, then use the flour. You see,
Yes, sir.
make your cereal with it or your fungi or whatever, you know. Oh yes,
Well, wow, wow. So this is a lot of things. Just going over what you said, we have the onion group, which is onion, garlic, asparagus, the
yeah,
cruciferous group, which is broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower. That's the
yes,
second group. And then the third group, we have nuts and seeds, which is
correct.
pumpkin, sesame, and walnuts. And you said seeds treat cancer, AIDS, not only cancer, but
Yes,
AIDS,
right.
some of the seeds. So that's very
Yes,
informative. And then we have the corn, the grass group, which is
grass,
corn,
yes,
oats, rice, and wheat. And then the legume, which is soybeans, tofu. So tofu is good for somebody allergic to the greens
yes.
and green.
Tofu, tofu is the best form of the soy to use.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Let me note that down. So that's the best soy. And then we have green and wax beans. Wax beans I've never heard of.
yeah, you
So
know
I'm
the wax
learning.
beans. It's just that you call them green beans,
Yes, sir.
but they really refer to as wax beans, the correct name.
Oh,
They,
okay.
they're round like tiny marbles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then we have fruits, citrus fruits, berries, sour sop. You noted sour sop for cancer.
yeah.
And then we have the is it the Soillands group? Am I
Solana,
pronounced
Solana.
Soil Soillands? Yes.
Yeah,
And it's the tomatoes,
potatoes
sweet
and your beets
and
and so
sweet
on.
potatoes.
Right.
So sweet potatoes is what we should go for, and
Sweet,
avoid
yeah, not Irish potato, not
not
white
Irish
potato.
potato. Yes.
Correct.
And then the umbelliferous
Umbelliferous.
group,
Right.
carrot, celery, parsley,
Yeah, dill,
dill,
cumin.
cumin,
Yeah,
and
all of those.
anise. Anise. So
Right.
Yes, great. So I have a question about grilling because our people will put beef, everything. Is it the method of grilling that is bad, or should we use earthen pot, or should we bake? Because during the biblical time, they baked the meat,
Correct.
and they also, instead of grilling, they put it in like roasted inside. It was not outside with the air. They put it in and then they take it out. So I don't know if it's roasted or still considered baking. So that's not grilling. So grilling is bad.
Yeah, because you're using that charcoal.
Your mic, sir.
And sorry, yeah, you're using the charcoal,
Yes.
and um, there are individuals who say they prefer it because the charcoal gives it a good taste. Okay, let's use an analogy. How many people love soda?
A
Because
lot.
soda tastes great. You know
Yes.
why soda tastes great? Carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide is actually put in the soda for two things, the fizz and the taste.
Mm.
But carbon dioxide is a deadly poison. That is why it is a waste product.
Yes,
We
sir.
breathe it out because the body does not need it. And if you are in a room with nothing else but carbon dioxide, guess what happens? You will die.
Wow.
That's how people suffocate in small spaces where they do not get fresh air because of carbon dioxide poisoning. And even worse than carbon dioxide poisoning is carbon monoxide poisoning. That's what people use when they want to commit suicide and they get the carbon monoxide from the fuels from the car. Now, what does coal produce? Carbon dioxide. And it is that carbon that goes up from the coal and combines with the flesh and the fat, especially of the meat. And all of those toxins are stored in the fat. And then you eat that. And that's a good candidate for stomach and colon cancers. You don't want to be using barbecue foods.
Yes, sir. Wow, that's a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much. And if you're
Welcome.
watching, just recapping what doctor said: soybeans, vitamin B, vitamin A, butyric acid, carotene, and fish oil.
Yes.
He said bake your tomatoes also. It's
Right.
better than raw tomatoes for the men for prostate cancer. So with that, any last words for us? I don't think there are any more questions. I don't see any more question. Any last words for us, doctor, before we close?
Well, my last word is going to come on the screen. So let me show you. At
Yes.
the top of the screen, this is what I want folks to go away with. As you exercise your natural freedom to choose, remember, health is not a trendy option, it is a necessity. It's a necessity. I think that's the best word to leave you with.
Yes,
So
sir.
have a pleasant good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, everyone. Good night. Thank you, Dr. Cardi.